Okay, let's try this again. This is Jonathan here from the Floor Rejects podcast. Back at it again with the white vans. Back at it again with a new Sims video to go along with the Wells House Phenomenon, the podcast that I'm doing. This is the supplemental version. It's just kind of a visual representation of what we're looking at in the story, because a large part of the story kind of revolves around physical changes, not so much of our main characters' physical surroundings, but a lot of changes with the characters and some with the physical surroundings as well. So we're going to jump into the build here. I do apologize for getting this out later than normal, 2 weeks late. Again, not that many people are viewing it, but if anyone is, that's awesome. Usually my schedule is really strict with my podcast, but in the last week I have been diagnosed with bipolar. Also either anxiety-induced depression or depression-induced anxiety. Not sure which, was not super clear. And then the next day my grandma died. We're not really sure from what. I don't want to say COVID, but she was in a nursing home. So that was a big bummer summer. So then this week we had to deal with all that, plus, regular life. My bosses let me know that I, in fact, would get no time off, which, big shocker there. And then I ended up attending a Zoom funeral yesterday. Very uncomfortable because funerals are usually kind of for everybody, for the whole family. Not so when you come from a super religious background. It is for exactly who people want it to be for. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this run through. I've sped it up to like 5 times speed so that we can get through it pretty quickly and we can just kind of discuss what's going on. So let me hit play here so I can watch it with you. And what is it? 2 minutes, 15 seconds ish. Yeah. Okay. So we're going back into the Wells Manor. And today, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm still remembering correctly, we're going to be doing Warren's bedroom, bathroom, the kind of closet hallway area that he runs through to get to his bathroom, as well as kind of fixing up the exterior a little bit. You can see as it spins around that it's very, very blank, and I'm expanding it. And as I'm looking at it, expanding it, and as I've thought about it more as we keep going along and just how much space is in this house, I may end up shrinking it back down, honestly, because there's no need for this much room. It just seems unnecessary and like a lot of work. So, as we all know, things are subject to change. I'm building again here in the nighttime for some reason. I don't know why. I always start out at night and then I switch to really bad afternoon lighting, I think. When I watch like Lil Simsy videos, she always talks about the lighting, and I was always like, it's just lighting. Like, it doesn't matter. Turns out it does matter. It makes building things a lot easier and a lot more difficult depending on how the lighting looks. So I'm going to fiddle with windows here for a good 5 or 10. Well, in real time, it was like 5 or 10 minutes. I have no idea how long it is. Basically, once it's sped up to like 5 times what it is now. But I think by the end of it, if I remember right, it ends up looking a lot more like your traditional farmhouse with just a bunch of matching windows, a lot of symmetry. That was a huge thing in the designs in this period. Not me opening up a Safari tab. That's embarrassing. I hope there's nothing. Ugh. Anyway, this design style was all about simplicity, symmetry, and it was more about just taking that simplicity and symmetry and expanding it to have as much space as possible. Because in the time periods in which these houses were the most popular for their function, it was, having the space to have large families, eat, sleep, take care of themselves, can, all sorts of prep type stuff. So you needed more space. Now we think of more space as a luxury just to have it, have extra rooms to do whatever. But historically, when this house would have been built, it was designed with function over beauty, I guess, mostly because houses typically weren't really that beautiful unless it was really specific or you were like the Winchester house or something. They were still built for function. Sorry if you hear creaking in the background. I was using a chair that I got from Target on clearance. Fun fact, actually really sad fact. It was a beautiful like woven chair that was an outdoor chair. I got it on clearance and I loved it. Turns out it was very bad for my back. Like so bad that it was causing chest pain for me. Like because I would sit, it had a more of a lean, whereas this one's very straight back. It had more of a lean, so when I would lean back and then lean forward to work all day, because I work at my desk half the time, and the other half of the time I'm at a steering wheel all day driving, it was doing an absolute number on me. So I'm using this chair, and you can't really hear it that much, but it creaks really badly. We're still adjusting the exterior. I had this weird glitch where if I tried to put the door in a certain spot up here, this like space would appear in the wall if I tried to.
Think about Dua Lipa.
If I try and center the door, this weird space appears. I don't know what was going on there. So I ended up putting 2 doors instead. That way I didn't have to worry about it. Now, here's where it gets fun. So I add some trim, I do little fun things, and I was thinking about leaving the roof exactly as it is, just so plain and a one-dimensional thing. And then I realized that number 1, I don't have to do that. And number 2, I really don't want to do that because as I've described the house in the story so far, not that we've gotten a super elaborate description, we just kind of understand that it's a very classic farmhouse style. You could leave it completely blank on every single side. You could. I don't really want to, only because it just looks ridiculous in The Sims, and not that I care what things look like in The Sims so much, but for a
broom.
Not my neighbors driving down the street like they're in Speed Racer. Just for what I'm building, I want it to look aesthetically at least like somewhere somebody would want to live, sort of. So that's why you'll see I mess with the roof a bit here in a minute after I slap some windows just to make it look like a house. I add dormers to the roof because it just felt like it was so massive and there was no space for anything. And like I'm trying to dress it up with vines and stuff, but kind of the whole idea, and I end up deleting most of them because the whole idea of this house is that it's perfectly maintained by Lila and Thomas. That's their whole job, is just to maintain this house and to keep it in tip-top shape. They don't get paid with money. They're paid by room and board, which I find interesting. The idea, it's a very antiquated idea of like, we're paid by room and board, but what happens when you're too old to do the job anymore? You know what I mean? It's kind of that same idea of like, well, once it's kind of what socialism fights against, but that's not important. This is not a political podcast. This is not a podcast right now at all. But here you can see I'm adding dormers and I'm just messing around with them, mostly just to make the house look a little bit more interesting. And you can watch me tinker with it for forever and ever and ever. It's really not, it's not that interesting. But I wanted to get this build out because it is a really big change to the design of the house. We went from like 4 windows in the front to...
How many people were scared?
Alexa, garden lights off.
Me too. I was really, really scared.
What time is it? I guess the sun is just now coming. I don't know. I'm recording this early Sunday morning because I had to get up early to take my boyfriend to work, even though today is not my day to work. And the medicine that I'm now on makes me very sleepy. But back to the build. I wanted to give it a more aesthetically pleasing look, not to be like aesthetics, but also just kind of to be like aesthetics. You know what I mean? This house is still supposed to represent wealth and opulence and taste, even if it doesn't always represent taste. So I wanted to go ahead and give it a, at least a look that kind of says, yeah, we put some effort into it. So I threw some dormers in there, and I'm not really sure. Yeah, the windows were really glitchy. And so I decorate the outside, and then we're going to get to the inside here in a minute, even though we're already pretty much halfway through. But what I did do, and you'll see here in a minute, is I actually put a walkthrough at the end, so we can walk through the rooms and take a look at them together, because we haven't done that yet, even though there's only been a few videos. I just thought it was kind of fun to walk through the rooms and just see them. So you can see here's the original layout, and I think I still wasn't happy with the entrance, because it was like, it, the way that it was set up, it wasn't even, and it bothered me to no end. So I finally ended up getting it fixed just because I thought if I don't fix it now, I'm going to build around it and then it's going to be really hard to fix. So I ended up fixing it and making sure that it looks symmetrical, because that was really bugging me, is that nothing was symmetrical. And that it felt like every time I would put something down, there would be another issue. So I believe now it has like complete symmetry in the entrance hall. And the entrance hall is not as big as I picture it in the story. But again, just aesthetically, kind of at this point with the whole Sims design, I think it makes more sense. Now, right now, I'm deleting all these random rooms I created just because they don't really make sense. They were just like a generic kind of, let me show you exactly how massive this house is. On one floor, we've got like 3 houses crammed in. But we've still got our entrance hall, our sitting room, and kind of the hall that leads into it. And now we're going to get into building that main central hall that stretches kind of all the way through the back. And then we're going to have the Warren's bedroom. We're going to do his bathroom and the closet / kind of mini hallway that he walks through between the bathroom and the bedroom, his little ensuite. And I placed one of those pre-built prefab rooms just so that I could get kind of the space right. And then I realized that's way too small for a master suite in a house this size. So I ended up expanding it by I'd say a fair bit, just so that you've got the space to kind of say, yeah, this is a bedroom fit for the owner of a house of this magnitude. I will also say building this house is like the antithesis to everything that I usually build for just for fun. When I build houses for fun, and like that's pretty much all I use the Sims for, is to watch the Sims do stuff to each other and to watch them run through houses. I build super modern houses. Like I will download a house from the gallery that is so modern that it doesn't even function sometimes, and then change it so that it functions for me, because I love a modern aesthetic. I don't really like classic, super like ornate, ridiculously ornate styles of houses like this one, like massive houses with giant crown molding that's sparkly white with off-white walls and all these ornate kind of carved, beautiful, but not for me, sconces and chandeliers. That's not me. I'm not really a minimalist, but I'm much more of a simple design type person. Now, to look at my house and look behind me, you wouldn't think so. But like when it comes to furniture, like the things that I bring into the house, I do my best not to make it anything other than like simple, clean, modern. Like the other day, and we're just building the room. Remember that the bedroom and the closet are kind of together and that it's all blue. Like the rooms are all sort of themed. And that was something you saw a lot, especially with really rich European like monarchs and stuff, which is where a lot of rich white people in the United States got their ideas. Rich monarchs would have like the wallpaper copied into a fabric that they could then use as their sheets and their bedding. And everything would kind of match together perfectly cohesively. So that's why the bed is the same color, even if it's not the exact style. Everything is in tones of blue and dark wood. And I ended up changing that rug because I don't really like the round rug. What was I going to tell you? I don't remember. Sorry, my brain's really scattered. Let me tell you this. When you get on meds that really mess with the chemistry of your brain, stuff like really kind of just falls out of your brain, like gone. Whatever I was going to tell you a minute ago, I'm not going to remember until I watch this back, and then I'll be like, how did I not remember that? But so in the bathroom, we're building that. Remember, Warren talks about walking in and immediately seeing a wall of mirrors. This bathroom is the only room, and there's still some like antique or classic pieces in it, like a giant clawfoot tub in the middle of the room or the carved wood vanities. But this is like a room that sticks out. It's in the middle of the house. It's kind of like the one room that is completely Warren's, if that makes sense. When we think about like, if you are fortunate enough to have a house where you have your own bathroom, right? Some people come into your bedroom, like they'll come to your bedroom to hang out, or they'll go to your bedroom to see something or whatever. but your bathroom specifically is the one room that is very yours if you have your own. Like, not to brag, when I lived in my parents' house, there was a bathroom attached to each of the bedrooms. So like my bathroom was my room. Nobody used it because nobody needed to use it. So that's why I've designed the bathroom differently from the rest of the house and created this bright white space, because it is sort of the most central room in the house that is completely Warren's, that nobody else ever has a need to access at all. Like nobody needs to access this room except for Warren. And so I've designed it as a much more modern, clean space that maybe was updated. We don't know yet, but we'll find out in the story when and why it was updated, so we can kind of understand who did it and what it represents as this big white open room in the middle of this dark, outdated, dusty interior that is certainly opulent and beautiful, but is also like completely different than this one. Like you look at it, it's a glowing room in the middle of this house.
I'm fucking going down.
Oh, sorry, I ate McDonald's breakfast and I'm slowly falling apart, guys. I'll tell you a story after this. Remind me to tell the story about Grandma. Okay, not the dead one. That sounds insensitive. She was 90, I think, and she was suffering, so it's okay. Also, she was great. She was a slut. She lived her life freely and had no cares about what anyone thought about her. So when I joke about her like that, like I can picture her standing behind me laughing. Not in a creepy way though. But we're doing the dining room was so quick because it is just, dining rooms are boring. To me, dining rooms make no sense. Like when people do Sims builds and they put dining rooms in, I'm like, who uses a dining room? Like nobody uses a dining room, but they are something that were in houses like this. And because nobody has ever changed this house or really updated it, of course it's still going to be there, but it's such a boring room. Like it makes no sense. You can see I slapped a table and a rug in and maybe some paintings, and that's it. But this house is very it's polished, it's beautiful, but it is kind of just, there's no personality. There are all of the functional pieces of any room that they need. You see I'm referencing the thing that I've written. There all the functional pieces you need: bed, dresser, tables, paintings, and lights. But there's no personalization. There's no flavor to it. There's no taste to it. There's no intent to it. Like, I slap these rooms together not just because, oh, it's boring or whatever, or because, oh, I know what colors they're supposed to be, so here they are, but because I'm designing them in a way that is designed by someone who has taste, or had taste at the time. Maybe not even had taste, just had money and thought that money brings taste. So whoever designed this said, you know what? Each room is going to be its own color. And that's taste to me. Is this room is a blue room, so everything's going to be blue. This office is green, so everything's going to be green. And it's like, it makes sense. And to me, it's kind of pleasing. Like, I think it's good looking. I think it's fun. But I also can see how it's so boring, right? That every room is its own color. Now, if every room was its own theme, like you're at Rainforest Cafe or something, that would be cool. But this is a house, and the only design theme throughout the whole thing is like ugly brocade wallpaper, and not necessarily ugly. To me, it's not my style. I'm much more of a minimalist, flat white, or my favorite is when people put like, molding on the walls, either I can't remember the name for it, like wainscoting or like the squares and very simple designs on the walls just made with trim pieces, and then they paint everything a flat white color. Love. Okay, we're gonna do the walkthrough now. Okay, so we're walking through entranceway. We're going here. Oh, we're spinning around. We're a little confused. Jesus Christ, what has happened? What am I doing? Okay. There we go. So we're going through the front door. We're looking at the entrance hall. Let's go see the dining room. See how boring it is? Because dining rooms are just boring. They serve one function, and it's just to sit at a table and eat. That's all you do. Sorry if this is giving you motion sickness. It's almost giving me motion sickness. I'll get better at it, I promise. Bedroom. Everything is blue. It's simple. There's nothing. He goes through the closet. It's lined. Just like if you listen to the way it's read, it's lined by these rows of shoes and clothes. And I almost designed it with The Sims in mind. Like, that's what those things look like. Green office, desk, chairs, everything green. It all makes perfect sense. But it's so boring. The design is so simple, but like simple not because we wanted it to be simple, but just because whoever thought of it didn't have the level of interest to invest time in cleaning it up, in giving it a more beautiful aesthetic. You know what I mean? Giving it a more thoughtful aesthetic. Whoever designed this originally just said, let me slap some money on it and just be done with it. I say all this not just to be like, well, this is what I feel like the person who originally designed this house designed it to look like. Like, that's not the only reason I say that, but it's also because as Warren kind of grows throughout this house, he's gonna feel like, I want to change this house. Like, I want to make it my house, but he can't make it his house. Now the video's over, so it's back to me. He can't change it. There's nothing he can really do about it other than really just what you see him do in this latest chapter, chapter 5, I believe, where he's bringing in the internet, he's bringing in a router, he's bringing in televisions, bringing in removable, non-permanent items to make the house his own, but the house itself doesn't ever really change. Like wallpaper that's been there for far too long and that's probably been glued back on so many times, furniture that's been there for hundreds of years, stuff that should in no way like really exist or should still exist after as long as it's been, but is there simply because the house is never allowed to change with the owners. Because as we learn, the farther we get into the story, the owners are either distracted by what else is going on, or they realize that the house is not really theirs. They may own the home in name, but that's it. It's just their name on the house. It's not their house. And we learn more as the story keeps going because, again, not to be brave, not to part this chicken butt of a hair out of the way.
My dick fell off!
But I know where it's going, and we do realize that this house has never belonged to anyone but one singular person. And that person, who we've yet to really meet, is the true owner. I'm Pam. Who are you? I'm the owner of this house. It's very that aesthetic. So forgive me for the scatteredness of this video. My brain is like over here. You can't see, but let me show you. I got a new plant. I'm one of those people. I'm a plant person. Let me show you. 1 second. Oh God, I'm gonna fall and die. Come here. Okay, I got this new plant. Are you ready to see it? Look. Oh, shit. Oh, Alexa, set the office to warm white. 1 second. I want to show you how it really looks. Look at this, okay? Look at the underside of these leaves. They're like beautiful purple and white. This, listen, I found it at Lowe's. It's hurt, but it's okay. It's called, and forgive me if this is, I don't think it's problematic, but it just, sometimes things feel, those TikToks that are like, what feels racist but isn't. It's kind of that. It's called a nanook. The plant is. Let me put her back. It's a beautiful plant. It's an inch plant, and I love it, and it's beautiful. But my brain is like over. You can see my brain is like over here, and then it's over here. It's been a rough week for me. The story about my grandma. I was going to tell you. Not my dead grandma. R.I.P. Love you. I don't know what that was. But my grandma, one of my grandmas who's still alive, she called her and my grandpa called me, and they were just checking on me, seeing how I'm doing. And I was like, let me update you. Because here's something I've learned when it comes to mental health. And you didn't come here for this, but I'll tell you about it. Here's what I've come to learn about mental health is if you can't be honest with the people in your life about your mental health, then you don't really need them. They don't have to be the most supportive. Like, not everybody knows how to handle every sort of stressor equally. But if you can't at least be honest with them and tell them this is what you're going through, like, you don't need them. So I'm always honest. I was telling them what has transpired with me, and they were, of course, aware that my great-grandmother, she's my great-grandmother that passed away, but we just call her grandma, that my grandma passed, and they were, offering their condolences because it wasn't, long story short, my original 2 grandparents got divorced, and so it was the mother of my grandmother who died, and then my grandfather, who was divorced from my grandmother, was the one calling me with my other grandma, who he's married to now. goes in circles. But they were talking to me, and she said, I tried to listen to your podcast and I didn't like it. And I was like, okay. And she was telling me that she listened to an episode and it was too much talking. And I was like, Grandma, that's what a podcast is. It's all talking. Like, that's all it is. And she was like, it was too much. You were talking too much. And I was like, okay, well, I appreciate the feedback. And then she was like, and not enough story. And I was like, got it. Okay. Well, it's not an audiobook, but yeah, I get it. And she was like, and you were so down on yourself. You were calling yourself a narcissist. And I was like, okay, well, what week was it that you happened to pick up and listen to? Was it the week where I was like diagnosed with BPD and trauma? Or was it the week where my grandma died? Or was it the week where I found out that my work had doubled my workload and cut my pay in half? Or like, what week was it? The week she's talking about, I had watched that movie with a white man with long hair. The one that played the guy from, what's his name? From Stranger Things, that he played the like jock. And then Sashir Zameda, where he's like a murderous Uber driver. And he spends all this time talking into the void, making these videos, doing these elaborate things for no one. Like, no one ever watches, no one ever listens. And that was how I was feeling that week. I was like, I'm talking into the void. I think I'm important. It's so narcissistic for me to think that what I have to say or do or create is in any way important, because it's, in the grand scheme of things, it's not. Like, I'm not curing cancer. I'm not solving the mental health crisis in the world. I'm not like curing racism. Like, I'm not doing any of those things. I'm writing queer stories and just reading them to you. And so I was really down on myself that week, and I was like, yeah, that's probably not the best week for you to have picked up. And she was like, yeah, well, I also don't know how podcasts work, so I couldn't go back and listen to it. So you were telling the end of a story, and I didn't know what the beginning was. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, so what even is it? And I was like, well, it's a podcast. And so I explained to her that the format of the podcast, and it changes season to season or like story to story what it is, but the basic format is there's 3 segments: the introduction, which is either me just talking to the camera, to the microphone, talking to my listeners, of which I have just a few. The second section is always, let's read the story. And sometimes they're really short. They used to be like, it could be anywhere from like 4 to 10 minutes that a chapter would be, because it would be like a 1,000-word chapter, or like a 1,500-word chapter. And so we'd get 10 to 15 minutes, and then like 30 to 45 minutes of me talking about the chapter afterwards, or talking about what it reminded me of or what it spoke to me. And here was the weird thing is, my grandmother told me, why do I call her my grandma told me, she said, there wasn't enough focus on your story. There wasn't enough focus on your work. And then another friend that I have, like a friend who's like an actual friend that I talk to all the time, who like knows me really well, she listened to like the first 3 seasons just to support me. And I don't think she listens anymore, which I get. Like, it's not everybody's cup of tea. Podcasts in general aren't. And especially not podcasts where it's just one person talking. Like, that's a really niche thing that is very specific. I only listen to like 2 podcasts where it's just one main host and everyone else is either a guest or there is no one else. But my other friend, when she told me what her thoughts were, it was, I want more of just listening to you talk. I find it more interesting to listen to a person talk to me nonchalantly about their day or about what they're thinking about than listening to a story that I have to pay attention to. So I was like, by the end of the phone call with my grandma yesterday, I was like, I can't win. Like, I cannot win for losing, figuring out, am I doing it right or am I doing it wrong? And am I looking into the camera every time with crazy eyes? Yes. What you don't know is, like, I've already said it, my brain is spinning in 1,000 different directions. My hair is also doing that underneath here. So I feel like every time I gesture, I have to gesture more because I don't have any hair. It's all tucked under this hat. Because I irrationally got a haircut and now I regret it. It is what it is. But I don't have anything. I can't wait to figure out the story that I forgot what I was talking about, and then just moved on. I can't wait to remember what it was and like cut myself in saying this is actually what it was, because like my brain is so scattered. I don't know what's going on. It's supposed to get better. I'm supposed to like kind of go through a weird phase with the medicine, and then eventually after a few weeks kind of settle into a more steady rhythm. Because if you've listened to my podcast before for a period of time, like listen to episodes over multiple seasons, you can kind of listen and tell when I'm losing my mind versus when I'm not losing my mind, because the quality of the reading, the quality of the editing, the quality of all of it kind of fluctuates, because that's just me here doing it all. And then the other day I got my hopes up about applying to be a part of a podcast network that has a bunch of shows I love. And then I went on to look and,
He needs some milk.
am I okay? Is my brain just like cutting into different, do you see what's happening? Anyway, before I go on another tangent, so I went to look about applying to like be a part of this program, and they were like, we're not accepting anyone. So that made me sad. That's the end of that story. I'm going to end this video because I guess I didn't realize that my brain is like, I'm losing my mind. So I'm going to cut it here. Maybe do some editing on the computer down here. And then I'm going to go play Cyberpunk 2077, which is, I hope it doesn't crash. Because my brain seems to just be not functioning correctly. But anyway, until next time, I'm gonna bounce out of here because I'm losing it, and I'm gonna cover the camera up with this little piece of fabric, can you see, that I cut out of green velvet. It's the same velvet from that couch. I just cut a section of it when I reupholstered and built the back for that couch, because I don't want, who do I not want to see my butt? I don't want you to see my butt. What I don't want you to see is up close my lips. When I talk too much, they get really dry and then they turn white and crusty. And I don't like that. So I'll see you next time. Bye.